Casting from the basement of La Penta, it's WICR.
Good afternoon, Iona College. Antonio Coppola alongside Matthew Brownstein back with you for another Sports Hour. Matt, we missed last week, so we got a lot to talk about. Tuesday was a big day in the NFL, so let's get right to it. Free agency started, and it was like Christmas for a football fan, and it was especially a great Christmas if you're a Jets fan because Darrelle Revis, number 24, is coming back to New York.
He's coming back.
Matt, I got home on Tuesday night. I get some texts from some buddies. Everyone's blowing up my phone. Turn on SNY, breaking news, and I see a picture of Revis holding a Jets helmet, and I start jumping up and down. I start laughing because I couldn't believe it. You know, the rumors were happening maybe starting the week before. You know, the Patriots aren't going to pick up his option. Look for a reunion. It's a possible reunion that could happen. But I really couldn't. I wasn't going to believe it until I saw it because, you know, Revis, he's always been about the money, and you know he just won the championship in New England, so it put him in a tough position. You know, he could either stay with New England, stay in with a great franchise, a great team, and a great coach, and you know try and repeat, or he could come home to New York where his career started. He played here for 6 years, and you know established himself as the best cornerback in football. So what are your thoughts? You think he made the right move?
Well, Revis has always been about the money, and let's not begrudge him for that because most players are. Obviously, he got $70 million, 39 or so guaranteed. Revis got his ring last year with the Patriots. He was a big part of that, had a big bounce back year with them. You know, if he stayed with New England, you know, there was obviously a better possibility that he was going to win another championship. You know, Brady still has a couple years left in his prime, and he also, you know, has always restructured his contract, and so that I think he's only making $8 million this year or $9 million this year. So, you know, if I'm Brady, I'm a little ticked off that I'm restructuring my contract and losing these guys. But I think for Revis, the thing also that's alluring is that if he does win here in New York with the Jets, who have so longed for a Super Bowl, he'll be a legend forever, you know, whereas if he wins in New England, yeah, it's going to add to his already Hall of Fame resume, but winning one in New York, just like with Melo with the Knicks, if he wins one in New York, you're revered forever. So I think that also might be alluring for Revis too. Now, no one's, you know, saying that or suggesting that the Jets are going to be a Super Bowl contending team this year, but you know they are on the right path. I believe a lot of great moves that the GM's already made. You know, obviously the big thing still is the quarterback situation, but the Jets, you know what, are going to be relevant again, and I definitely can see them winning. You know, anywhere from 8 to 10 games this year. What about you?
It's tough. They've made some great moves so far. Along with Revis, they added Buster Skrine on a 5-year, $25 million contract, I believe. Who is, you know, he's a second-tier cornerback. He started for Cleveland the past 2 years. I believe this is his 4th year in the league. He's improved every year. He's a smaller guy. He's about 5'9". Not very physical, but he's got great ball skills, and so they added him. And you know, there's still rumors about them adding Antonio Cromartie, which would be a great addition because that would bring back, you know, the tandem of Revis and Cromartie that was very, very, very successful in 2011, 2012. No, but going back to Skrine, he's a great slot corner, and he could play the number 2 also. But alongside that, they've added Ryan Fitzpatrick. A lot of people are questioning the move. You know, he's a journeyman quarterback. This is his 4th team in 4 years. But Matt, the guy went to Harvard. He played in Chan. Yeah, he's a smart guy. Apparently, he scored a 50 on the Wonderlic test, which is like perfect.
Wow.
Yeah, he played in Chan Gailey's system up in Buffalo. He had some success there, and you know, he may be turnover prone. He might throw some stupid interceptions, but I think that if Fitzpatrick can, you know, if he's not going to start, he'll at least teach Geno something because I think Geno. You know, we're forgetting about Brandon Marshall, too.
Brandon Marshall for a 5th-round pick.
Yeah, the Jets steal Brandon Marshall in that trade from Chicago, and that's huge because going back to Geno, if Fitzpatrick can help, you know, mentor Geno, you know, teach him some things, how to protect the ball, how to make some, you know, better decisions, read defenses. Geno's got 2 viable options in Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker, where the Jets finally have a number 1 receiver, and that'll only help Eric Decker.
It takes the pressure off Decker for sure. Instead of being the number 1 guy, makes him number 2 now, and yeah, for sure. The weapons that Geno has or Fitzpatrick or both have right now definitely are electric and dynamic on, you know, both on the offense and defensive side. So, you know, now it's about, like you said, it's about the quarterback controversy and who they're going to go towards. Are they still in the running for Marcus Mariota? out of Oregon. It's a possibility. I'm reading actually in the Daily News today. Ebenezer Samuel has his mock draft, and he still has the Jets pegged at number 6 for Mariota. If he's there, I think you have to take him, Antonio. I really do, because what's worse? Is it worse to pass on him if you're Mike Maccagnan and have him haunt you later on in terms of becoming a great superstar, or is it worse if they take him and he kind of fizzles out?
The more I think about it, the more I agree with you. If the Jets, maybe it's because they added Fitzpatrick and they needed to get a veteran in there,
right?
But with that 6th pick, I think if Mariota's there, you probably have to take him. And the more I think about it, in past drafts, when big name guys, Mariota or Winston in this case, but in the past, bigger names, teams, the teams that are like, scouting them at the combine, going crazy over these guys, they're usually not the teams to take them. The Jets have been very silent on the Mariota front. I'm sure they've been scouting him. I'm sure they like what they've seen, but they haven't come out publicly and said anything, which kind of, leads me to believe that they actually do have a better chance than many people think to take him. I guess we're waiting for May. When the draft happens, that's when, it's crunch time. We'll have a much better idea of what's going to happen.
And I'm still not convinced that, although Chip Kelly came out the other day and said that, they're not going to go all out and, give all these picks up for Mariota, I'm still not convinced that Chip Kelly's done and that he's satisfied with Sam Bradford. I mean, Nick Foles has been a healthier, better player the last couple seasons. I mean, obviously Bradford has the talent and the skill set to be a great dynamic player, but he's not, he's been injured with 2 ACLs, and I mean, while he has the talent and the pedigree to be a winning player, I think Chip Kelly still is in love with this kid Mariota, and I definitely think that there's still a possibility that they're, come closer to the draft day, that you might get, a pick or so that, Philadelphia is going to try to give up to get closer to drafting Mariota. And then you have the reports coming out. I know John Clayton the other day said that Washington may even be still in the mix for Mariota, which kind of puzzles me too, with Robert Griffin III and Kirk Cousins still there. But it's a quarterback-driven league, and you need to have not necessarily the dominant quarterback, because there's only a handful they can count on one hand that there are. But you need to have a guy that's reliable. And right now you cannot say that about Geno Smith. Ryan Fitzpatrick is basically there in case of emergency, or kind of to, like you said, to lean upon and teach, because he is a veteran and smart guy. But the Jets going forward need to have that guy that's going to be their guy going forward. And I think if they do draft Mariota this year, let him sit for the first half of the season, let him learn, let him kind of take it all in. I think the Jets should learn from what they did in the past with Sanchez and with Geno. Instead of throwing them right into the fire, let Mariota learn a little bit. Let him sit back. Let him do a little bit of a clipboard holding on the sidelines and watch the plays, and kind of just, there's a lot to be learned just from watching. And I think throwing these guys right into the fray, while it works sometimes with the guys, obviously, when you have big time players like, Andrew Luck, that are, prime stars coming out of college, a lot of times, it's better to learn. I mean, look at Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers sat on the sidelines for what, a year and a half before he took over for Favre. So, and now he's, considered the best quarterback in the league.
I agree with everything you said. The only thing that, as a Jets fan, I could find, I guess I would say some hope in, is that back when the Jets had Sanchez, in his first and second year, the Jets had a great defense, and that's when they had Cromartie and Revis, and, they have a better defensive line right now as they stand now than those years, and the Jets were able to make it to back-to-back AFC Championship games with an average, I would say, a game-managing quarterback.
Right.
So if you put Fitzpatrick in there, I think that the Jets, would have a viable shot at making the playoffs with the weapons they've added, with the additions on defense, and going back to the defensive line, the Jets have one of the best defensive lines in the league, and if you look around the AFC East, the whole division has gotten better. I mean, you could argue that the Patriots have gotten worse because they lost Revis, they lost Browner, but they just won the Super Bowl, so you can't, and you've never been able to count them out because of the Patriots.
Right.
But no, if you look at a team like Miami, Tannehill has progressed, albeit slowly. They just added Ndamukong Suh.
Massive contract.
Massive contract. That was probably that was a strange situation, and he admitted in the press conference yesterday when they introduced him that it was all about the money, and that was a bit refreshing to hear from an athlete. You never hear an athlete come out and say, "Yeah, I came here for the money," but he was honest and he got his money. He's a Hall of Fame talent. Those type of guys don't reach free agency all too often. And you look at Buffalo with Rex Ryan, they're making a bunch of moves. They added LaShawn McCoy. I guess Matt Castle's going to be their starting quarterback. That worries me. See, I personally, taking away my fan bias, I would much rather have Fitzpatrick than Matt Castle. At least Fitzpatrick has proven something. Last year, he was, I think, top 10 in the league in quarterback rating when he was with Houston.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he did have 17 touchdowns and 8 interceptions last year, so he didn't have a bad year.
Right.
Fitzpatrick definitely is. He's had more success in the league than a lot of other guys out there. I guess he just gets a bad stigma because he hasn't. He hasn't won. He hasn't really done anything in the playoffs. But he's been with not so great teams in the past too, which may not have helped obviously, and not having the talent surrounded around him. But now, if he does get a chance, an opportunity with the Jets, like you said, he's got a lot of weapons that he can really kind of deal with now, and that might improve his stock and make him look even better than he currently was before.
Yeah. But going back to the division itself, I think it's gotten a lot better, and it's going to be very interesting. And another a quick bit of information: the Jets actually play the Giants this upcoming season. I forgot. They play the schedules. They go in a rotation every 4 years. You get to play every team. The Jets last played the Giants 2011. That was the Christmas Eve game when the Giants and the Jets were trending in different directions, and after that game, the Jets went down and the Giants went up, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl.
That's right.
This
took off from them.
Exactly. It's going to be a very, very, very exciting game in my opinion. I can't wait to see Revis go up against Odell Beckham. So I'm already looking forward to that game. We don't even know when it's going to be played, but I'm just already looking forward to that game. And I'm also looking forward to the next move the Jets are going to make, because they're not done. They brought in safety from San Diego, Marcus Gilchrist, who is a pretty viable safety. They need someone to play along Calvin Pryor, maybe teach him some things, because he had an up and down rookie season. And like I mentioned before, Cromartie is. Sources around the league are saying that Cromartie is basically a lock to come back to the Jets, which excites me tremendously. I can't tell you how happy I would be with Cromartie, Revis, and then Buster Skrine in the slot. It's a testament to John Idzik to bring back Revis and Cromartie a year or two after he let them both out the door.
Right. Yeah, and you know what? It's funny because I remember the night that Revis got signed, I got a text from you, and all it said was Revis. Yeah. And that was it, and that's all that needed to be said. And I had a report from Bleacher Report on my phone, too, and I was happy for you because I know you're a big diehard Jets fan, and having Revis back, obviously, it's good for the fan base because it gives something to, cheer about and to have, be hopeful for. And obviously, it's a hole that, the Jets needed to fill. But Revis brings some hope, and he also brings now a championship with him, and maybe that'll rub off a little bit on the other players in the team that haven't been, to the promised land yet. Because, having guys that have championship pedigree and have been to that mountain and succeeded, maybe it'll inspire other guys. Maybe he can bring in his ring, and especially from the Patriots, maybe that'll, really kind of get guys going. And you hope that Revis, is Revis and that he can stay healthy, which, most likely he has predominantly he has in his career. But yeah, I mean, listen, it was a good move. It's funny that all the guys that Idzik got rid of are coming back now under McCagnon. It's kind of like they're just reverting totally back, and Idzik obviously was just a total bust here. And it's refreshing to see. The McCagnon seems more, of a player personnel kind of guy instead of. Idzik, who was more, financials and
capologist.
Yeah, exactly. And I know he came from Seattle, and they were hoping that they could kind of copy what the Seahawks were doing over there, but it just wasn't going to work out. So it's Woody Johnson. You got to give some credit to Woody Johnson for seeing that it obviously wasn't going to go anywhere with Idzik, getting rid of him after 2 seasons. So
yeah,
you have to give credit to Woody Johnson as well, as much people don't really want to, but I think it's definitely worth noting that they made a good choice so far with McCagnon. Now again, it's all on paper, so let's wait until they actually go out and play a game, and let's see after the May draft who they're coming out with the number 6 pick, if they keep that number 6 pick.
Matt, before we switch it over to the Giants, really quick, just a bit of news: the Jets just re-signed offensive guard Willie Cologne. I'm not sure it's a good move in terms of depth, but I'm not sure how I feel about it because this guy was a penalty machine. He was an automatic false start, or automatic holding every single game. His number was getting called by the referee. The Jets added early in free agency. The Jets added James Carpenter, another guard who was a bit injury prone. He hasn't really panned out. I think he was a first round pick actually, and he hasn't really panned out into what his true potential is. So the Jets added him to give him a look. But I guess Willie Cologne's going to compete with Brian Winters, who's coming off an ACL injury. They're going to battle it out in camp, and I guess the best man will get that guard spot. But this is a surprise to me. I really thought the Jets were going to move on from Willie Cologne.
Well, the one good thing about Willie Cologne you could say about is that he has started 16 games the last two seasons. Both, 16 games in each of the last two seasons. So health-wise, he stayed on the field, which is, an accomplishment in itself. So if anything, they're going to get him back and know that he's a guy that you can rely on to be on the field. Now, of course,
he's a great locker room guy. He actually won a Super Bowl with Pittsburgh years ago. He's a great locker room guy. He's been a great leader. So I guess there's pros and cons of this.
Yeah, and depending, let's see how much guarantees come. I'm sure it's not going to be a lot guaranteed or many years that they probably signed him for. So it's not, like you said, it's not a bad move having a team leader in the clubhouse and having a guy that's won. It can only help with the chances to get these guys motivated and going. I also see a report from Adam Schefter here on rotoworld.com that DeMarco Murray is expected to sign with the Eagles, which is another interesting.
Perfect segue,
topic.
As I was about to segue into the Giants. The Giants add Shane Vereen, who's obviously coming off a great season with New England. He won the Super Bowl, obviously, but he was a very, very dynamic player. Not only running the ball, he's a great power runner. He's got a little bit of speed too, but out of the backfield, Matt, this guy can catch 50, 60 passes in any given season. He's a great threat, and I think the Giants got him at a great price, about $4 million a year. And that's just going to add, another dynamic piece to Ben McAdoo's system. They already have Victor Cruz coming back alongside Odell Beckham. Ruben Randle played very, very well down the stretch. So I think that was a great move for the Giants.
Yeah, absolutely. Adding more depth, is definitely going to help overall. And obviously, you want to get Eli back on track and have some more weapons that he can, pass down to. The Giants are definitely in a win now mode also. Tom Coughlin's re-signed for a 1-year deal, so this is probably going to be the end for Coughlin, I would imagine too. So want to go out with a blaze of glory. I like the signings that the Giants made, and they didn't guarantee a lot of money to these guys, but they got a lot of guys, so you have to give credit to Jerry Reese for going out and stockpiling some of the guys that they needed to get. And you can never have too many wide receivers and tight ends and all that, all those players. So definitely it was a good move for the Giants.
Yeah, you mentioned Tom Coughlin. This is definitely a make or break year for him. But franchises like the Giants, the Steelers, even Baltimore, who else? New England. You see these perennial, contenders. They don't make big moves in free agency, and it always works out for them. So I think the Giants, they haven't done much. They signed Vereen. I believe they added a kick returner to help them out on special teams, and they've re-signed a couple of their linebackers, and I think they're pretty satisfied with that. They've got some weapons on offense. Obviously, the biggest thing is that they have a quarterback, so there's always hope for Giants fans, and I think they will be able to contend in the division. However, you just mentioned DeMarco Murray signed with the Eagles, so that adds a huge dimension to Chip Kelly's offense, the Eagles team in general, because It's unheard of for a team to lose their season's leading rusher and leading receiver in the same season. Chip Kelly shipped LaShawn McCoy out of town in the trade to Buffalo, and he didn't re-sign Jeremy Maclin. He went and reunited with Andy Reid in Kansas City.
Right.
So
and Deshaun Jackson, a year ago also.
Yeah, Deshaun Jackson, he shipped him out of town a couple years ago. He went over to Washington in the division.
The three playmakers that they counted on the most are all gone. They totally are revamping this offense completely. It's you don't see that often, but obviously, Philadelphia ownership is giving all the control basically to Chip Kelly and making it his team. And we're going to see if it works or not, because if it doesn't, Chip Kelly's going to be right back in college. That's for sure.
Matt, I think that this guy, I was listening to Sal Palantonio yesterday, and he's covered the Eagles for, I can't even tell you how long, years and years. He's a diehard fan as well. He's from Philadelphia. He's basically put into words exactly what I've been thinking the past few days. This whole thing seems like a mess. It's misguided. and it just doesn't make any sense to ship out those two players, to bring in Sam Bradford, who's coming off back-to-back ACL tears in the same left knee. He had a serious shoulder injury in college.
Right.
It makes no sense because you had Nick Foles, albeit he had the broken collarbone, but I think a broken collarbone is a much less serious injury than an ACL tear.
Oh, without question.
And then he goes on to blame the cap. He couldn't bring back these guys because of the cap. Well, you just brought on Sam Bradford, who I believe is like a $13 million cap hit next season. So it just all makes very little sense to me.
I think there's something else going on. I really do. I think that Chip Kelly does have something up his sleeve come draft day. I think there is going to be some moves and wheeling and dealing going on that we're just not aware of yet. Because I think you're right. I can't see Bradford sticking with the Eagles. Obviously, they re-signed Sanchez, but he's going to be a backup. I don't see them going either one starter. I think there is going to be some kind of movement, whether it is trading up to try to get Mariota or some other trade involving a QB. But I just don't see. You're right. Bradford is just a question mark. Sanchez played well with the limited time he did have with the Eagles, but Chip Kelly's the kind of guy that he seems the kind of guy that he's going to want to get his guy and mold him and be in total control, and I just don't see that with Bradford or either Sanchez.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what kind of moves are made during the draft. I think that not only has this been a great we haven't seen a free agency like this in a very long time, a free agency period like this, I should say.
I wish all sports were like this. I wish we had like a day like...
This is crazy, and it's funny because it's almost like the opposite of the trade. It's almost like this should be the trade deadline with all these moves happening in one day, but instead it's the start of free agency, and it's a great time. I can't wait for the draft. And I just can't wait for the NFL season. I think it's going to be a great season.
Oh, without question. But it really, I was thinking about the other day how all these moves happen in one day, and it'd be cool to like have baseball. And I know obviously the NBA trade deadline. There's that day where it's kind of all things happen, but you have the build up towards it. What if you made it 2 days where it's like, okay, guys, you have 48 hours. Get the trades done, go.
Yeah.
And our signings, get and go. And then just see, and it's like a free-for-all. So that way, every, hour or two, you're looking at your phone and looking at Bleacher Report or Roto-World, and you're seeing all these different, signings and trades. I mean, how cool would that be? For a fan's perspective, obviously, it would be really cool. But obviously, I understand logistically, for owners, it would be bedlam. But, selfishly, it'd be really cool to have that for the other sports. Because baseball, with the winter meetings and the off-season, it just drags and drags and drags.
Does.
And you may have that one big signing or trade, and then obviously the GM meetings, and there's some moves coming out of there. But every year it's a little different whether you have big moves or not. So,
Matt, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we're gonna talk about a home run that happened yesterday and a big name pitcher that struggled just a little bit. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.